thank you so much for watching today. We have Susana, and she is a wife to Tim, and she's mum of 3 little ones. Little baby girl, you got your girl, and 2 bigger boys, 3 and 5. And Susana's from Spain, she's moved to England, and we're gonna hear a bit about her journey in the faith. You talk about having a tiny house, but I think you're doing a great job with space.
Since we homeschool, it would be nicer being a bigger house, but yeah, so far so good. We make the most of it, that's for sure.
My new friend Tim. Tim, men generally don't want to be on the show, and with good reason, I think. It's just very difficult to find something to talk about, especially on the show. I don't really want politics, social commentary, and that generally leaves men with not a lot to talk about. Apart from the football, your Spurs, I'm Arsenal. Will there be a St Tottenham this year? It's the day where Arsenal fans rejoice because Spurs cannot finish above Arsenal. He's disappeared in recent years, hasn't he?
Yeah.
You think you're too far ahead?
I think so, yeah.
I think it's only a few, put 5 points, 4 points.
Oh, okay, fair enough. There's a chance.
Well, I'm the eternal optimist. Hope is just around the corner.
What is under here, Susana?
That is our Last Supper. We covered it at the beginning of Lent. Just as a sign of the season. Also for the children, because they see all these things. Like we have daffodils there. We usually don't have flowers during Lent, but just Benjamin picked them yesterday in the park, so. But yeah, we try to keep everything plain. So when it's Easter, we bring everything out again, we uncover things, and I like to buy flowers for the Easter morning.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because the traditions and the structures in the church are there to help us and to move us along. As human beings, I appreciate visual things, and it's nice to hear about what you do in your home, and they do have an impact on us. They certainly do, I feel, like an impact with visual things, particularly.
So in Spain, we have processions all Holy Week, from Sorrowful Friday, which is the Friday before Palm Sunday. So they take the statues out, the images, they put them in, we call them thrones, because it's the throne for God, for the King. And usually it's the statue or the image of Jesus in whatever, like different times of the Holy Week. Like you have the Last Supper, for example. You have Jesus with a huge table and all the apostles, and they all go out. They put them in the throne, and it's carried by men.
So it's very like cultural, yeah.
Yeah, you know Antonio Banderas, the actor?
Yeah.
He's from Malaga, and he's member of one of these cofrades. They are called Brothers, and he made huge contributions, and there's like kind of competition, who is getting this year something new on the throne, and like more gold. Like the virgins are covered in gold, and it's crazy. It's very folkloric. And because they call each other brothers in the cofrades, and for them it's like their mother, and so for them it's so like I want the best for my mother, and I have a photo on the stairs of one of them.
That is a lovely point, actually, what you say. And I was listening to a talk about Our Lady the other day, and it was about that we would never let Our Lady, because she is our mother, even in the playground, like there might be insults, but the worst insult would be an insult against the mother.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that we honour Our Lady, and we don't worship her. She's not God, but we honour her, and that's lovely to hear how they do that in Spain.
Now there are people who want to remove these things from the streets, because the country is for everyone, only for the Catholics, no? They want to make a point that you are not respecting other people's beliefs because you are doing this. And it's true, they shut everything down. They shut the roads because the procession goes through the road, so they collapse everything.
Shops are closed,
everything. So there's a big movement trying to remove this. But it's not all... It does a lot of good, and it's part of the culture, it's part of the history. And I'm, as a Catholic, I'm like, no, you are bringing these things out so people also can see. It's a way to catechize. It's very good, but also it's part of us. It's all culture, and it's a Catholic culture. You like it or not, and you can't just wipe everything and say, we start from zero, because you don't like it. or if you think it's offensive for some people.
Do you think it brings anything to the society, just as the culture is, even if it's not in their hearts necessarily, and there's a lot of competition and things, do you think it still does something for Spain to have all of this rich culture that it has? I mean, compared to England, that just doesn't have any of this, or just a fraction.
I remember when I moved to the UK, I was working somewhere, and we were talking about religion, I don't know, and there was a lady from Nepal, I think it was, and she didn't know who Jesus was. I'm like, how is that possible? Like, don't you know who Jesus is? Jesus Christ? Like, no, she didn't have a clue. I've never came across, like, you are not Catholic, you don't go to church in Spain, but you know who is Jesus, you know who is the Virgin Mary, and maybe it's from these things. You never put a foot in your life in the church, but because it's everywhere, not only in Holy Week, like there are statues outside, like in places like crosses or in buildings. So yeah, it's something that I don't think we should lose because it's cultural.
Tim, you weren't always a good and holy Catholic. God was somewhere along and he come and got you.
No, I was leading a very secular life. And I wouldn't have known that I was living a secular life. I thought that's life, right? Because I was raised in a family where, although I went to a C of E primary school, we prayed the Our Father in the morning every day, religion was no part of our life. My parents weren't raised, from what I can understand, from what they've said, they weren't raised in a religious family as well. So why would they change anything for us? We were raised well, but we were raised to know very much like right from wrong, how to behave socially, what is not acceptable and what is acceptable, and that was very strong with my parents. And I believe that in terms of moral compass, it was pretty sound. But
They did a good job.
Yeah, it did a great job. Great job. For me, it wasn't necessarily grounded in anything, but I didn't know anything different to what I know now. My moral code is set very much in the guardrails of the Catholic faith, where there's freedom to choose, but there are consequences to certain moral and immoral behaviour. So I was out just doing my thing, and life was okay. And then I went through quite a pretty intense period of my life where I was getting anxious, and I suffered with depression for a while, and I was using drugs and alcohol, and struggling to really make a go of life.
Yeah, it kind of seems quaint to ask it, but would you zero that in on like not having a spiritual focus, or why have a moral life if there is no good, there is no bad, there just is us, we're in space floating around?
But I would say it's pretty agnostic, right? I sensed there was something that was judging me for my behaviour. And so there was actually quite a bit of guilt. Well, there was a lot of guilt with the kind of things that I was doing, and so there were consequences to that. And I felt, no, I'm going to pay for this. There was a definite sense of that. I didn't think I was getting away with stuff as time went on. In the beginning, I felt I could do pretty much whatever I wanted.
Just keep going and the guilt will go.
Yeah, but it hit me really quick. I was in my 20s, living in London, and starting to get really suffering from panic attacks and things like that. And I was growing up, I was sporty kid, pretty confident, outgoing, and I was just reduced to this kind of, I'd say it's a bit of an existence, to be honest. I was just trying to get by. I was just trying to survive. And I think the other part of that is that because my brother had got on and he was doing pretty well, and my parents seemed all right and everything else, I felt like, where am I going wrong? And around that time, I met a group of guys who were similar background to me, similar kind of experiences. Some had suffered from depression, some had anxiety, some had drug problems, drink problems. And they were part of this, a group that focused on spiritual principles. And at that point, I'd started to read books on spirituality loosely. I mean, alternative therapy, alternative...
Where'd you gone? Section of Waterstones?
Yeah, that's it. The spiritual section of Waterstones, and picked out a few books from there, and I started reading. So there
just of your own volition? Yeah,
I was just like, I'm looking for something else. There's got to be something else over and above what I'm experiencing right now. And because I could relate to them, because they've been through what I've been through, and they were talking about how their lives have improved as a result of going through a bit like a spiritual exercise of St. Ignatius, something along those lines, like a process they've been through, and turn their lives around. I started doing what they were doing, and I started praying on a regular basis. And by this point, I wasn't going to church or anything like that.
What were you praying, Catholic prayers or
no, not even
prayers?
that. I was I don't know what I was praying. I mean, I was just praying for guidance and praying for help.
Call out to the
universal
invisible.
spirit.
Yeah. Just anything that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then about a year or two later, I was still friends with them, still mixing with them, and then I got interested in the Catholic Church. I admit there were 3 or 4 guys at a time who I became really good friends with, and I didn't know that they were very serious about their Catholic faith. There was something different about them, something really quite attractive. Seemed like solid, like weren't complaining all the time, were just going about their... It wasn't all about material success, it was about doing a good job. One of them suggested, why don't you go to the London Oratory? And if anyone had just sort of... Anyone off the street that said, why don't you start going to the Catholic Church? Not sure I would have done it, but because I saw something in them and they were doing it, that compelled me to go.
Like I say, if you're suffering, your kind of senses are more alert or attuned to people's personalities. Had you spotted things in them?
Well, if they were talking about suffering, they were talking about it in the sense of, like, this is a good thing. This is part of life as well. And so their translation of suffering was different. It wasn't... So they would talk about something difficult, but there would be something great that would come out of it. And so their language around suffering and pain was very different from what I was used to. When I used to hang around people I'd complain about and stuff, they go, oh yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? Isn't it awful? The world's against you. And whereas their translation of suffering was actually, no, this is a part of life. It brings me closer to God. It's helpful for me. It keeps me humble and so on. I was thinking, yeah, this is like, I don't know what this is. And it might sound really weird to probably someone like me 10 years before that to be talking in that way. Life is difficult. Life is painful. And the moment you accept that fact, then you actually start to transcend the suffering, the physical, the pain that goes with suffering. And so I'd read that, and then I started getting to know these guys, and then I started to go to the Oratory in London, the Catholic Church in London, and the kind of reverence, seeing almost 1,000 people get on their knees and praying and facing the altar, and the beauty, the artwork.
But it's 1,000 arguments put into one, isn't it? It's
Unbelievable, yeah.
in a microsecond.
And it was almost like, that's it. That's exactly
sold,
it.
yeah. Me
I don't
sold.
need to look for anything ever again.
You did start off in the Premier League of churches, though.
Did, yeah.
A few things have gone your way.
I didn't come to the UK looking for a husband, no? But yeah, it's like, oh well, why I haven't met anyone in Spain, no? Yeah, it is difficult. It's like there are not many, I guess, good Catholics like my husband. I don't know. Yeah, but I did think that maybe I would be just single. Maybe I should go to the convent.
And when you met Tim, it wasn't obvious that you were...
We went to the Good Counsel ball. I didn't see him and he saw me. And then we were in the oratory. They did these teas and coffees after Mass. And we used to sit at the same table with friends.
And we were all sat there, and one of the guys was talking to her a lot. And it was at that point I was thinking, I don't like that. That should be me talking to you.
It was not like instant connection, no? Like, how you say, love at the first sight?
Love at first sight.
Yeah.
That kind of competitive spirit.
All right, look,
Yeah.
the game of love.
I was like, all right, yeah, it's definitely on then. Yeah, and so there were a couple of guys who were pursuing her, and I thought, well, I need to up the game a little bit here.
Do you think if it wasn't for these sorts of social events that you wouldn't have met Tim? If you just went to Mass and went home and didn't
I
have the
wouldn't
social...
have met him, no. No, the teas and coffees after Mass, they're important. People where you can find like-minded people, not friends. You don't have to find someone, just friendships.
And was he the first person you dated, or did you date some guys before? He was?
Yeah.
And so you didn't date anyone before?
No.
Not interested?
No.
You wanted to be a nun?
I thought about it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
But I wasn't called, I guess. No.
Yeah.
When I moved to the UK, I was living with some nuns, and I thought, okay, let's be open. But I didn't see the nuns interested in me, so they gave me a book, I read it, but there was no follow-up or nothing. So I like them, but it's not my vocation. So I came in September, we met in December, and we just started started dating.
Did he ask you out?
What's that Denzel Washington movie where he goes into the room, sees that it starts his watch? I'm going to ask her on a date.
Yeah, I was lining up the next date, and I wasn't living in London at that time. Any spare evening, I'd drive up to London and take her out for dinner, and then
Fend off that other interest.
yeah, because if I'm seeing her, then the other person isn't, right?
So then, was there a clear line between you're just meeting up as friends and then you're dating? Because I think some people that are watching are maybe like got lovely friends and maybe they want to take the step further.
I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't know if he asked me or not.
How did you get from being friends to getting married?
We started like seeing each other for a couple of months and then like officially dating, I think it was from March. And then we got engaged, I think, towards the end of the year. Yeah.
So did Tim ask you to get married?
Yes, a few times.
How many times?
3.
Why? You said no.
I say no.
It felt pretty painful at the time, to be honest, because the fear of rejection is there anyway, right?
All the time.
Although I felt confident to ask her, because we'd been dating each other for a while, seeing each other. Then when she said no, I was like, oh!
And that was the first one.
It was quite unprepared by myself at her house, wasn't on any knees or anything like that, and it was a conversation, and it was in the moment rather than anything I'd prepared. And she said no, and I was just like, oh, right, okay, where does that leave me? And we were in Spain as well, so.
And did you feel like within your interior life, could you hear the chorus music, this was the moment you felt confident?
If I look back, probably no, it was a bit too spontaneous. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with spontaneity, but I think actually I didn't think it through in terms of, what would have been a special moment for her. I think it was just led by,
Is that your style? Let's just do it.
Yeah.
Let's rock and
Like
roll.
she'll tell you that I'm highly impulsive, and so I personally felt it's right. It's the moment. I'm going to do it right now. And rightly, she said no. She seemed pretty nonplussed by it, and she just said no. I don't know how I feel yet. I was like, oh, right, okay.
Deep breath.
Deep breath. Walked outside, made a call to a mate. You wouldn't believe what,
For me, I didn't want to move here. That was a big step. So it was I wanted to be 100%. And then I spoke with a holy priest, Father de Mallory. I had a conversation with him, and I saw there was nothing stopping me from, that was the right thing.
To get married to Tim.
Yeah.
But Tim asked you 3 times.
3 times.
And he asked you the next time. Like, how long between the next time he asked you?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
How long since the first one?
Great question. Had it been, was this the next day?
I think no.
2 years.
This was weeks later. It was fairly close. It was within a few weeks. We'd taken the trip to Ronda, beautiful part of southern Spain. And again, we'd gone for a long walk, and it was very romantic, and we'd stopped for ice cream. I was like, yeah, I think this is it now.
Is this the next time you'd seen her as well? Had there been a kind of awkward parting of ways after
No, we kind of carried on.
after rejection one?
Yeah, there was probably a bit slightly less contact, I would say, because I was reeling a little bit. It was in an outdoor part of this lovely rickety old cafe, enjoying an ice cream, and then, because I thought the thing with Susana, she doesn't like a lot of pomp, right? She's pretty straightforward. And then I asked her. So she said no that time. And it was a long way back. It was a 2-hour drive back to her parents to drop her off.
2 hours of silence.
2 hours of fairly awkward conversation. I was already thinking, I'm out. I'm done. I've had enough. That's as far as I'm going to take it. And I got back to the guy's house that I was staying at. And again, I was pacing up and down on the phone to a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, just saying, I can't believe this, second time round. She's rejected me again. I think I had another week left in Spain. That's the thing. It wasn't like go over there and then come back again.
I mean, you're kind of quite optimistic to think, if she says no, I've got another week. You're going for it.
Well, I thought,
I like you too.
now or never. Just what?
And it was
what's
never.
Up? It was never.
It
Yeah.
was never.
So when you were dating, did you talk about rules of dating, or did that even come into it? Did you come into your relationship with the same
No, I think we knew the
acceptance?
rules.
You knew
Yeah.
the rules.
Yeah.
How did you maintain to follow the rules? Because it might sound obvious for you, but some of us have struggled in the past with dating. And how did you manage to keep your relationship holy? What things, even looking back?
Try to meet up in public places. Try to be in a state of grace as well. Go to confession. I guess also because I was 25, He was 33. I think we were not, when you are mature, maybe it's easier, no? Like you have your ideas more clear on how things are. And
So what sort of things would you do when you were dating?
we used to eat out or go to the park. I used to live in London, and then I moved to Reading to be closer to him because he used to drive all the way, and it was a lot for him.
I would prefer for her to be really comfortable with the answer rather than just saying yes because it's because in my mind it's the right moment to do it. And there's no way of manipulation around with Susana. For me, I actually grew in respect for her in saying no the second time, even though it hurt the second time.
Hurt as much or more, Tim?
I'd say more. It floored me the second time. I was thinking, wow, that is it. I don't know if I can go through that again. Therefore, the only logical thing is to part company. Fine, we're adults here, and
The game of love is ruthless, Tim.
oh my goodness,
It's not for the
faint-hearted.
Yeah, the faint-hearted.
Yeah, it's not at all. I was praying and begging God for direction and guidance and help me to do the right thing. And what's the loving thing to do?
That is to say, you were a religious man at this point.
Yeah, I'd converted by that point.
By the second proposal or by the first as well?
Well, both. I'd already been received into the church by then, but probably only a year into it.
Did you see this as the crowing for the second time?
No, I didn't.
There's no parallel there.
The cock.
The cock crow, yeah.
I wasn't that deep at that point. I wasn't that deep into my faith. So while I saw it as a trial of some sort, and I recognised that it was part of God's will for me, I didn't link it. Maybe I would have had more hope the third time round.
How's Susana on the kind of awkward silence? Just watching from the interview with Maria, the awkward silence on the way home in the car, I think she would have just been water off a duck's back.
Oh, totally. Like no sense of, were you affected by that, or should I be talking about it? Or,
She should be a poker player.
yeah, cool as ice. So it's very hard for me to gauge whether or not I should persevere based on her reaction. I can sometimes wear my heart on my sleeve. You can tell whether
Straight
I'm
off.
done in by something or not, right? With her, no chance. So it was a bit of a poker game, to be honest, on the way back, and then we got back, and then I had this conversation with a mate, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, yeah, you should." Well, he was really empathetic towards what had happened. You should stick it out. And then we came back. She had made it clear that she wanted more time. She wasn't sure yet, and I thought, okay, fair enough, and I backed off a bit.
You're a bit like me, Tim, because you're a bit older than your lady friend. We're almost similar. I was 32 and Maria was 26. I think you were 33.
33.
25.
She would have been, 26.
Looking back at my 25-year-old self, I would have been completely different.
So,
Same personality. I wouldn't have been as calm, cool. I wouldn't have been as measured about, or kind of even bold, actually. It's quite bold getting around to chance number 2 and then having the metal to get onto chance number 3.
Yeah, 20s I would have moved on.
2 burned.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, my pride would not have let me. Yeah, done my 20s, into my 30s. I was definitely looking. I'd had my conversion. I was now looking for a Catholic wife. I had a list of things that really I was looking for, and I felt I'd found them in Susana. Then I was like, no, I need to persevere with this. I feel this is God's will, and I feel also there was something that I was getting from Susana. It's like, I need to work for this. Like, you're not being
That's the
religious.
spirit, Tim. I kind of felt like that as well. I thought,
Did you?
right, yeah, I would say though that maybe different to yours. I just knew, and even though I was nervous, I thought if I don't act quick, it's like a secret. If other people find out about Maria,
No,
I'm gonna miss out.
No, because Susana was being pursued at the same time as well.
Oh, she mentioned that.
So, well, she wouldn't, but there were a couple of guys who were trying to, texting her, and she was quite open about it and whatever. And I thought,
If she's texting back, ask again. Go on.
for me, there was a bit of that as well. So I'm not letting anybody get in front of me, and because I really felt no, this is it.
And you were confident about that. Kind of stuff.
Yeah. And also the way it started was that, and she may tell you a different story, but I can genuinely.
The last time we were at the oratory, and he says, the last time I'm asking you.
Thank God that he persevered, hey?
And I went to see my spiritual director of the Oratory in London. We were hanging out together after Mass and everybody else had gone home. So I sat down with him and he could tell, like, the look on my face. It's like, what?
Tim, you're whiter than normal.
He said, where is she now? And I said, I think probably about now she's in the church praying or something like that. He said, yes. Well, he said, go and ask her now. I was like, oh, really? Third time? He's like, courage.
Did he give you any Dutch courage at all?
No, none at all.
No gin, no whiskey.
And I said, what, go into the church and propose there? He said, yes. I said, what, now? He said, yes. You know, sort of did my shirt up a bit and put my jacket straight, and I know what's going to happen. She's going to reject me, and it's going to be third time unlucky. She was at the very front praying in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and the church was completely empty, and normally there's a few people in there, but it was completely empty. But there was something, well, from kind of the courage type of approach that I got from the priest, I was compelled to go up and kneel down next to her. She was sitting down actually, and I knelt down and I asked her to kneel down next to me, and I kind of gave her that look that she
knew to kneel down next to you.
This is what's coming. Yeah. Here's, you know.
I can see it rolling in her eyes.
And then and then I asked her,
and we were kneeling in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and he asked me,
and she said yes. She said yes, and I was like, oh, I was so happy. Now I understand. For me, the trial that I had to go through to get to this point, and what a blessing to be able to propose to my wife in front of the Blessed Sacrament as well. And I really believe that it was meant to happen like that. One, me on my knees.
Good place for a man to be.
Absolute must. And I can't believe I'd neglected that the first two times. So any men watching this, make sure you get on your knees, or at least a knee. I don't remember much of what happened after that. It was a bit of a blur.
You've earned that hazy memory.
Yeah. The rest is kind of history, I suppose.
So you've been married now how long?
6 years.
And if we ask Tim that question, will he answer the question correctly?
Yeah. So he's been suffering all those years.
So now you and Tim are married. How do you keep a lovely, happy marriage? Do you keep a lovely, happy marriage?
Only in public, yeah. And maybe having no TV, that helps because we have the chance to talk.
Do you still hold hands?
When we are not pushing the pushchair, yeah. It's more difficult now, but yeah, we try to. When we go for walks, yeah.
It's nice having those little sweet things, I think.
Yeah.
Like just keeping up like the little sweet
being
things.
affectionate, yeah.
Yeah.
We get on quite well, actually. Yeah.
Yeah? That surprised you?
Yeah, well, I don't think we ever had a big argument on anything, or a big fight, or I don't remember. I think we are quite easy. Maybe we control ourselves quite well. I don't remember ever shouting at him or he shouting at me. Like, never things like that.
Your wife's saying she can't remember you arguing. Has her memory gone hazy?
I'm fairly sure I remember once when I shouted at her for something, and she just looked me dead in the eyes, and I just knew that was like, yeah, it's not going to happen. So no, we don't. We generally don't.
That's great.
For whatever reason, I don't know, maybe that's an extraordinary grace that we've received through the sacrament of marriage, or what? Because you'd think that southern Spanish temperament mixed with someone
impulsive,
pretty impulsive, that we would. But actually, like I said, we work things out. Sometimes we might ignore each other for a little bit, and we go off and do a bit of thinking. We come back again, but there's never any kind of.
Who doesn't, Tim?
My intent when I met her, I'd had a couple of, not bad relationships, but relationships that didn't really go anywhere. Not relationships, but like I dated a few people, wasn't really going anywhere. So ended it. I just thought, gosh, how long do I have to carry on this? Dating, ending. And I'd phoned my mum and I said, look, I've split up with this girl. We were dating for a while and I've never phoned my mum about relationship advice before. And this time I phoned her. And I told her about it. She said, just go and enjoy yourself. Just go and be yourself and enjoy yourself. Forget about trying to settle down. Just go and enjoy yourself. And within 2 weeks, I'd met Susana. I wasn't putting pressure on myself at the very beginning because I actually thought, she's from Spain, she's new in the country. How about I take a different approach? Why don't I just try and help her learn English? And genuinely, that was my intent. And I tell people that, and they're like, yeah, whatever. So that's just a
they're all
smoke
the
screen.
same.
Exactly. But honestly, Peter, I was thinking, no, I'm going to try and be of service to them.
I believe you.
Thanks, mate. And so for me, I believe that because my intent was different, the outcome was different as well. That actually there were certain points when we were seeing each other courting, we came across a few difficulties that previously I would have gone, do you know what? I'll check out. But actually, it was the very first time that I thought, I think I can work through this difficulty with this person. I think also been the basis of our relationship, like after we got married as well, that anything we've come up against, we have always worked through it together. But the fact that we do work out problems with each other, although sometimes we disagree on things, it was at that point I thought, yeah, there's something here, yeah, that I've not experienced before, where I would normally just backdoor it and say, see you later, I'm off.
Thank you so much. And if you're enjoying the episodes, please consider donating and supporting our work. And thank you to lovely mums and people like Susana. Keep her in your prayers, and God bless.
Tim, maybe there will be another feature. I'm just looking at the producer here. If she deems it in her... She's turning the dagger. Tim, thank you. Good day and good night.
Thanks, Peter.